I just have one question for all of you beautiful, beautiful people. When did everyone become such a goddamn hater? First, it's a bunch of disgruntled 28 Days Later fans. Ugh, this doesn't live up, worst in the trilogy. Then, it's Megan 2.0. Ugh, it's not even horror. Mission Impossible, Terminator 2 ripoff. Now, everybody hates Jurassic World Rebirth. I wonder if Steven Spielberg feels like the Oppenheimer state of regret meme every time one of these movies comes out. It's like Kong Skull Island, if everything was empty pastiche and it sucked. I love Kong Skull Island, I should watch that movie. Seriously, who fucking cares anymore? Great VFX though. If you don't care, then don't go! Ugh, boo! Boo! If the hatred stems from a loathing of corporate overlords who are milking IP, then that's fine. That is ethical hating. But I think that there is a way for everybody to win here. I will get into why, but first let me introduce myself. I am the Antichrist, also of course known as Haunted Hippie or Satan's favorite daughter. I talk about all things horror on this channel, so if that's your jam, then click subscribe, join my cult, then click the like button and the notification bell, that way you never miss the next video. I do a lot of reviews like these, and I always kick it off with my expectations of the film walking in. Then I talk about all my spoiler-free thoughts, and then I give you a spoiler warning before we do a little plot breakdown. Do I look like I would belong in a Jurassic Park movie today, by the way? I'm a little bit too fabulous face-wise, but look at my outfit. First of all, crow skull. My new favorite comfort necklace, by the way. But look, pants. White wife beater. Imagine I have a gun. I try to be on theme. I try to make it fun for you all. But then I remember that I'm a YouTuber and you cannot see my pants. So what were my expectations going into this movie? So I have been a lifelong Jurassic Park truther. Lifelong meaning my dad showed me the first movie when I was like 8 years old. That was one of the big ones that he showed me as a kid, and that would include other movies like Back to the Future and Jaws. Initially, I didn't have that much excitement because I was like, what do you mean you're announcing this when there just was a very definitive conclusion to the franchise with Dominion? I kinda got it though, with the really negative reaction to Dominion. I was like, okay. Plus those made a lot of money, so why wouldn't they? Also, when it was first announced, I was excited that David Koepp was coming back. I don't know if I knew that Steven Spielberg was producing, but I think he's a producer on like all of them, right? Because it's through Amblin Entertainment. I remember being kind of excited that Gareth Edwards was directing because he did Rogue One, which is one of my favorites of the Star Wars franchise. He also did that sci-fi movie more recently. What was that one? That movie wasn't great, but it was directed phenomenally. So I'm interested in him as a director. I think that he works really well with like big landscapes and sci-fi. But then by the time that I got to the theater and I sat down, I'd completely forgotten about their involvement. It wasn't until I saw their names in the credits that I was like, oh yeah. After rewatching the franchise and showing all the movies to my partner for the first time, I actually got really, really excited for this new installment. Because on my rewatch of Dominion, I actually loved it. And I was like, what a nice send-off for all these characters that I love. And the first time that I watched it, I was like, what the hell are we doing with all these bugs? Like, why does that occupy pretty much the entire runtime? Why is that the focus? I don't know if it's because I watched the extended cut on Peacock the second time around, and there is just like a lot more dinosaur footage and stuff, but I was like, oh, it wasn't actually as prevalent as I remembered. Like, it was fine. There was plenty of dinosaur action. So I ended up loving it when I revisited it, which I did not the first time around, let me tell you. And I figured with the reception of Dominion that we were gonna get kind of a clean slate moment and that they were gonna put more action in it. And that was all I wanted. I just wanted like a non-stop thrill ride, just focus on the dinosaurs, let our old favorite characters rest. And that's pretty much exactly what I got, actually. I know this is annoying for anybody returning because I say it every time, but for any newcomers, once again, I don't watch trailers. I avoided pretty much all the marketing for this movie. Oh, also, I knew that it was starring Jonathan Bailey and Scarlett Johansson. I had kind of forgotten, but then I think I remember seeing them in some of like the marketing pictures, and then it was like some mini baby scandal that they had kissed on the red carpet for a couple of the premieres of the movie. Anyway, we'll talk about her more in a minute, but to kick off my spoiler-free thoughts, I pretty much got exactly what I wanted from it. It does have a little bit too much going on. It suffers from a few of the same problems as Dominion, but the main focus is just dinosaur action. I love dinosaurs. It's part of the reason why I love this franchise so much and why I have since I was a kid. They are just so majestic. They're so fascinating. That's what it's all about. out. Like, and so this movie gave me a lot of the same feelings as the actual original movie. We'll get into more of the specifics of that with the plot breakdown. It was to the point that there was so much action that it felt like an overcorrection from Dominion, but I don't mind that at all. They still made some of the same mistakes, like I said, like they tried to humanize some of the characters a little bit too much, specifically the humans that I did not care about. There's one really long character backstory scene in the first act of the movie that I just could not give two shits about. It's Scarlett Johansson's character and Mahershala Ali. It's so generic. Like, it's just, I don't care. In fact, majority of the character writing is really generic and bad, but some of the characters do become really likable. It just ended up being a little bit of an uneven mix where there would be a lot set up for certain characters, but then their arc wouldn't be fully fleshed out and satisfying. And it was like, I didn't really care about these people that much anyway. I don't really care for their backstory. And then other characters that I did really care about, I felt like I didn't learn quite enough about. And I like felt attached to them but wanted more. And I don't know if that's a casting problem with some of it. I thought that some of the actors were a weird choice, mostly ScarJo. I don't know if this is a safe space to admit that. I don't know like how beloved she is within my own personal community here. I love her in the Marvel films, love Black Widow because it finally was an installment where she wasn't just the token woman on the team. I do love her in action movies. She felt weird here. And this next criticism, sometimes people have problems with me bringing this up, but I just so loathe the Botox and filler epidemic that is currently happening in Hollywood. And Scarlett Johansson is gorgeous, 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 aging gracefully, etc. But part of how she's achieving that to me looks like filler and Botox. And there are a lot of moments in the movie where I just can't connect with her. For example, she has this one scene where she's supposed to be looking off really pensively and there's like tears silently falling from her face. But what I'm reading from her face is just emptiness. Like there's not really an emotion coming through to me. There are a lot of times where she's having these kind of cute interpersonal moments where they're trying to develop the relationships between the characters so you get to know them. And I feel it in the voice acting, but I feel like the full emotions never come across her face. So I was getting kind of uncanny feelings and not really connecting with her. Things just look too tight, like the expressions just are not quite human enough. And I hope that people know that I am coming at this from a place of empathy. I might have a hot take here, but I used to fall into the camp of like, girl, do whatever to your face, like your body, your choice. And in theory, that's true, but I feel like we've kind of brainwashed women in society to think that getting that kind of work done is somehow feminism, when in reality, it's actually because of societal pressure. Like, I hope we understand that the goal here is not at all body shaming, but just kind of saying, what a shame that these fantastic actors are people that I'm now like struggling to connect with because of whatever pressure they experienced that led them to get this work done. I might cut that out. I don't know. Of course, the situation could also just be that like she's not fully committing here, and so she's not as expressive as she might have been in A Marriage Story. Fantastic Oscar-worthy performance there, by the way. And maybe that's all it is. Like, maybe this was more of a paycheck gig and she was like, I know I'm just here to be the main person on the posters and sell the tickets, and it wasn't necessarily a passion project. That could also be the case, but it's just kind of an overall shitstorm because her character is kind of lame. The writing is very flat. Maybe somebody else could have been cast who would have added a little bit more flair and a little more emotion, but majority of the writing for the characters was just very generic and kind of lame. So on to one of my favorite members of the cast, Jonathan Bailey. He totally sold the scientist in awe, studied under Alan Grant. Yes, babe, I can tell. So likable. His character is like my favorite trope that you can find in the Jurassic movies. There also is a group of characters that plays a family in this movie, and I found them to be mostly really likable too. And their sequences, I think, are the most heart-stopping. I think we tend to have all these problems with the characters and them being underwritten or goofily written because the main characters of this movie are the dinosaurs. When I tell you it's almost non-stop, there is an incredible cold open. We spend a little bit of time bumbling around, meeting the characters, blah blah, them getting out to the island. I mean, the movie does kind of start bad, but once it gets going, and it is a true horror creature feature. horror. Maybe the most a horror movie out of the entire franchise, actually. Fallen Kingdom has that fantastic moment with the Endoraptor and it trying to break into the little girl's room. That's a pure horror scene from the franchise. A lot of the raptor moments from the very original movie, definitely true horror. This movie is almost nonstop. It felt like a slasher movie almost, actually, but better, because generally slashers don't make me feel a lot of tension just by the very nature of the structure of those movies. Not super plot heavy, you know a lot of people are gonna die. It's the same with this movie, but somehow it works, I think, because of the diversity of all the dinosaurs, the diversity in the settings, and how people die. I think it felt kind of like a slasher to me because with this movie, the stakes were pretty high and you knew that not everybody was gonna make it out of this one. I was clutching Scott's arm for like the majority of the movie. I was so engaged. I was holding my breath, like my heart was pounding. The jump scares had me literally jumping because of the Dolby subwoofers under my seat. Hard recommend for a theater watch. I actually loved this movie. Huge crazy monster movie where people are constantly in peril is my bread and butter. Like I said, the diversity of the settings and of all the dinosaurs was incredible. I was so surprised to get out of the theater and all the top reviews are like 2 stars, 1.5 stars. Who even cares anymore? I spoke with my friend Tiago about it, who also loved the movie, and he made a really great point to me about Alien, actually. I'm sure that he'd be fine with me playing his voice note, but I'll ask him.
Dude, I fucking know. Like, that movie was perfect. I don't know if you saw my review or my rating, but I gave it 4.5 because what the hell? That movie is literally a horror movie, a horror creature movie. It's like aliens. Like, why are people hating on this but then loving aliens? Like, no shame to aliens. I love aliens, like the franchise so much. But like, why is Jurassic World Rebirth not getting the same appreciation? You know, like Alien Romulus, let's say.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it there. He makes many great points, but it's a similar thing. Like, Alien is such a revered original classic film, but then there still is a lot of love that people have for ensuing installments in the franchise. I really don't understand the difference between Alien and Jurassic. Very, very similar creature features. Similar in their commentary, actually. The anti-capitalist sentiments are kind of similar from film to film. Romulus, the reviews were a little bit mixed, but overall they were generally very positive, including from me. I gave that movie a 5-star rating, and generally some of the complaints you would see are like, this is completely unoriginal, this is nothing but fan service. And the new Jurassic World, I feel like there is very little fan service aside from like a few pretty glaring moments. It's not like the whole thing is just one big repetition from other things in the franchise. So I just would have assumed that the people with those complaints would have been happier with Rebirth. I think we all know that there's nothing that's gonna live up to the original Alien or the original Jurassic, so we're just there for the ride. I just kind of thought that we all knew what we were signing up for. I don't know why everyone is so mad. Alien Romulus did have better characters. I will absolutely give it that. Their arcs are definitely more interesting. It's a little bit more character focused, so perhaps has a much better blend of the character work versus all the action, of which there is also plenty. I get if that's a huge drawback for people. You know, maybe this is just a totally personal thing where I got exactly what I wanted. In an ideal world, the character writing would have been so much better and their journeys would have been more interesting, but it was serviceable enough. Now, if you know me and you know this channel, I'm just not a picky movie fan. I'm just a movie fan, and I don't think that I have low standards. I really don't. I think that I just love movies a lot. I cannot recommend getting out to see this in Dolby or in IMAX or whatever enough. Seeing it on the big screen like that was exactly how it was intended. It's been so long since I've seen a Jurassic movie in theaters. I went to the re-release of the original film a couple years ago. Of course, I watched the other Jurassic movies when they came out in theaters, but all 3 of those are a lot less focused on the sort of intimate action. Jurassic World Rebirth wants you to feel like you are right there, like you personally are inches away from the T-Rex's jaws. And that is how it should be, in my opinion. Very much feels like the original Jurassic when, you know, they're pulling the little girl's feet up and the raptor comes and snaps. Like, that's how close up and personal things feel in this movie, which is part of why it reminded me a lot of the original. There are some really kind of awe-inspiring moments that remind you just how majestic and wonderful it is that we can bring dinosaurs back to life on the big screen. It just was a good reminder of like why I love Jurassic so much in the first place. So yeah, go see it. I have rambled on long enough for the spoiler-free section. Let's get into a quick little plot breakdown. You are no longer safe. I highly, highly recommend that you go and watch this and don't spoil it for yourself. I'll be waiting right here for you when you get back. Now, the opening scene, I am a big fan of this cold open. It is short, it's sweet, it's to the point. Also, like one of the most anti-Snickers ads I've ever seen, kind of hilarious. They do introduce the big bad dinosaur, but not in all its glory yet. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm in the right place right now. You know that you have that to look forward to. And I don't know if I was worried in the moment, but that might have made some people concerned, like, oh, I'm gonna have to wait till some grand third act reveal to really get the best action. And no, they have plenty more in store for us. Unfortunately, it does slow down a little bit with all of the character introductions, and it's just like all these generic people that I know I don't care about. Well, besides Jonathan Bailey, the lovable, adoring dino enthusiast is always my favorite character in these movies, probably just because it reminds me of Laura Dern and Sam Neill in the original. He nailed it, although, like, the writing with the Altoids, I'm just like, why? It's not funny. Are those jokes for the children in the audience? Are people bringing their 8-year-olds and like introducing them to Jurassic with this movie? Because I handled the original just fine when I was a kid, but this movie, I think I would have been terrified. Like, I don't know if 8-year-old little haunted hippie could have handled it. I felt like Jonathan Bailey was good in that moment and kind of campy, but that the other actors didn't really know how to sell it, so it just was awkward. Oh wait, I didn't talk about the setup of the rest of the Jurassic world. I actually like the setup of the dinosaurs starting to die off and them only being able to survive around the equator. Scientifically, it just makes sense, which I enjoy that. I enjoyed whenever the scientist would start spouting off about scientific facts about dinosaurs and stuff, and how long they were on the planet, how long we've been on the planet, and how badly we're fucking it up. Also because it's sort of like a gentle retcon of all the mess of Dominion. Like I said, I did like Dominion, but I think one of my least favorite parts is the fact that dinosaurs are now just all out in the world and like being trafficked and stuff. Like, that's just kind of insane. We're getting back to the origins of the franchise where most of the dinosaurs are just off on these dangerous islands. I was actually surprised by how well they connected this movie to the rest of the franchise. I feel like the continuity is good. I didn't really know what to expect with it being titled Rebirth. I thought that it might just kind of be a big soft reboot. I was surprised by how much this movie's continuity made sense after Dominion felt like such a definitive ending. But continuing with the character setup, they set up all the familiar tropes. I wrote them down actually. We have the rich, self-serving guy, obviously, the badass woman of unspecified personality. There's the well-meaning scientist. We have the trigger-happy strong man, the guy who owns the boat. Gotta have that guy. And then the civilians that should not be involved, usually children, and in this case, there were some children. Oh, and a couple people who don't really have that much of a backstory and are pretty much just fodder. I think the part of the setup when we were meeting everybody about the pharmaceutical motive was interesting. I could appreciate it, but then where we end up with it, I was like kind of underwhelmed, but we'll get there. What I did appreciate is that the original Jurassic Park brings up the themes of, you know, the ethical implications of science and creation. This was a new and timely take on that kind of subject matter. It was sort of tangentially related. I like that it wasn't like a do-over of that. It was a little hammy at times, a little bit too sappy and a little bit too idealistic, but I appreciated the sentiment and the attempt. Again, we have to get through more generic setup with the family, and at this point I'm just kind of annoyed because I'm like, am I not going to be into a single character in this movie? And also, who are these people? Like, are we just setting them up really quickly to kill them off? And then like, no, they became main characters. I just wasn't into all of the unfunny comedy with the lazy, unlikable boyfriend. He stays unlikable for like majority of the runtime. That's another trope, lazy goofball boyfriend. It's hard to nail that one. It's so hard to make those characters likable. When he jumped off the boat after his girlfriend, that was kind of the turning point where it was like, okay, he's redeemable, obviously. But he kind of stays annoying and doesn't grow grow that much through the movie. They try to make it happen, and then it's never like fully realized, which then makes those growth moments feel kind of not worth it and kind of like, well, why are we stopping the plot here to have this conversation if there's not really going to be a payoff with it? Anyway, when we meet the family, the horror starts and the movie literally turns into Jaws. And I think that that was the major turning point where I was like, okay, I am here for a good time. Because it was a lot of boring stuff between then and the really good cold open. I think the mosasaur was the most underutilized monster of the Jurassic World trilogy. Like, what do you mean there is this giant carnivore in the ocean? I mean, like, talk about thalassophobia. And then when it teams up with the spiny guys, ocean horror is so real. I cannot believe that it took 7 installments to properly use the water dinos. And we get not 1 but 2 super thrilling ocean sequences, first on the little yacht and then with the whole group. I thought that the way they built that tension was so fantastic. I mean, obviously, because I actually was on the edge of my seat. That so rarely happens these days. I don't know why it's so hard for movies to like effectively build tension for me. I thought maybe like I've just watched too many horror movies at this point and I'm just used to it. I can kind of like tell what's coming. This movie genuinely got to me and I was like biting my nails. It's just an inherently frightening setting being in the middle of an ocean on a little boat when this creature is clearly like 3 times the size of it. They threw in the element of him getting trapped in the boat and potentially almost drowning. Like, I'm holding my breath. I'm stressed out for him. I'm stressed out that the daughters are out in the water and it's gonna take them a second to like get up onto the boat. So is the dad. He's trying to get the boyfriend. Oh my god, they're trying to get the radio. You would think it'd be a little bit too repetitive that there were multiple characters that almost got grabbed by the water dinos, but it stopped my heart every single time. I like that a lot of time is not wasted also once these sequences pass. They're on the island and it's like, boom, we got a plan B, we got to get this job done. We meet up with the family, they're on land, they start experiencing trouble almost immediately. Good. Especially the scene. Almost every scene with the dinosaurs in this movie is my favorite scene, but when the family gets caught up by the T-Rex, the fact that there are double sequences for all of the best dinos in this movie, first of all, the mosasaur attacking both the boats, then the T-Rex scene where she is trying to grab the boat and be quiet and whatever, and the T-Rex is napping, to then the T-Rex following them down the river. The T-Rex also hasn't been the main monster of these movies in so long, too long. It's been the hero in the last couple movies, actually. Finally, we got back to the OG Jurassic roots with the T-Rex. Excuse me. The T-Rex is horrifying. They have one of the biggest jaws. They swim. Dare I say they were finally utilizing the T-Rex to its fullest potential here? They swim. They fucking swim. You can learn more about that, by the way, on Prehistoric Planet, okay? It's a docu-series narrated by David Attenborough, the man himself. It's on Apple TV. It's fantastic. They just finally utilized some of these dinosaurs to their fullest potential, not just the raptors. The raptors were hardly to be seen in this film. And there are so many other fantastic, horrifying dinosaurs. Oh, but the raptor sequence when the boyfriend was peeing, that was a good comedy. I didn't like majority of the comedic writing in this movie, but that got me. Both heart-stopping and belly laugh-inducing, somehow. Then there's the scene with the titanosaurs, just beautiful. That was a really nice callback with the OG score, and honestly, Jonathan Bailey almost made me start crying in that scene. Nothing will ever beat the first time that we see the Brachiosaurus in the original Jurassic Park, of course not. But I'm really glad that we got one of those moments. Like I said, it just was a reminder of the magic, the fact that we can bring these dinosaurs back to life on the big screen. We've lost sight of that. Like, there's been the fatigue with the trilogy that we just got. So kind of ironic that, you know, we're jumping back in with this movie so soon. But this movie was really like, no, this is why we're here. And it is awesome. Like, let's bask in it for a minute. Majority of the rest of the franchise seems to forget that, you know, this is really what it's all about. I don't know how to pronounce this one, but another favorite scene, obviously, is with the Quetzalcoatlus? Quetzalcoatlus. Quetzalcoatlus. That's the best I'm gonna do. Another awesome dinosaur completely unused in the franchise. We do get some good pterodactyl moments in the franchise, particularly Jurassic Park 3, which I think is a really underrated installment in the franchise. But this thing was another level. And am I feeble-minded? Am I I so easy to please that they literally just brought in bigger versions of dinosaurs we've already seen, and I'm like, hell yeah! I was so excited to see all of them from the moment that he is pointing out all of their fossils in the museum. All the setup of this movie was so good, and then the payoff was just even better. This movie delivers so well in the climax too, with all the fucked up looking dinosaurs. That is literally what I'm there for. I love the meta moments of the franchise where it's like, oh, people are sick of seeing dinosaurs. They just want to see the genetically mutated ones, and so that's what they were making. And I'm like, yep, that's exactly what I want to see. Yep, correct. Which makes me confused, because I'm like, what is everyone else going to these movies for if not fucked up looking dinosaurs and nonstop dinosaur action? The supermarket scene was beautiful. The final reveal of the D-Rex was glorious. Took care of the rich guy really quickly though, a lot like the lawyer in the original Jurassic Park. I thought that he deserved a little bit more of a drawn out death. I thought that there would be more of a character confrontation. I guess they kind of wanted to wash Scarlett Johansson's character's hands clean of like having to put him in the line of fire or something, but I wouldn't have judged her for that. I thought he deserved more of a drawn out death, kind of like Hammond in the OG book, but I don't know, whatever. He didn't interest me that much anyway, so an unceremonious death I guess is fine. It was kind of part of the big reveal of the D-Rex, I guess, but I was more taken by the very kind of gothic red lighting and smoke revealing this gross looking thing. I loved that big nasty dino. Ugh. Even though the climax was far from one of my favorite scenes, I think they delivered on that reveal. The fake out death with Duncan did feel a little bit cheap. I kind of wish that he did make that sacrifice. It felt like it would have made sense for him then being back with his little boy who's deceased. He was one of the only characters that I cared about dying, so I don't know, it would have been kind of cathartic for the movie to just let you sit with those emotions, but then it was like, psych, which I guess is good. I guess I shouldn't wish death upon him if he was one of the characters that I preferred. And then the thematic wrap up of the fact that they're going to share this medicinal patent with the world is, it's nice, but it's just too idealized. Like, it's not real. In reality, we just lost funding for a ton of hospitals. We've lost a ton of Social Security and Medicaid. We're experiencing one of the biggest thefts of the working class to the billionaire class that history has ever seen. So I think I'm just too bitter to enjoy that kind of happy ending. I'm just like, yeah, that would never happen. I think I would have given it a pass if these characters somehow were also able to get rich on top of sharing the patent with the world. Like maybe he sells his research or something. The patent can still be free, but then he was collecting other stuff while on the island that he could, I don't know. When the ending of a movie is too happy, I'm a little suspicious. Overall, I do think that one or two more people should have died. And I'm gonna stand on the fact that I think that Duncan probably should have died, because what an emotional and grand sacrifice. Like, it's almost him atoning for his little boy passing. And maybe the boyfriend or the dad should have died. Maybe the boyfriend. Maybe he also could have done some atoning. I don't know. I ended up liking him, but because we didn't get to go on a full journey with his character, like he didn't move forward that much, I didn't feel like overall that satisfied with his character. Actually, I think that my vote probably would have been for Scarlett Johansson's character. I can't even remember her name, but that just wasn't in the cards. She technically, I guess, was the main character of this movie. It felt like a true ensemble, but like she's on the posters, whatever. I loved it. I might try to go back and watch this in the Dolby Cinema, but there are so many other movies out that I really need to see, so I probably won't get to, but I am excited to rewatch this one. This quickly became one of my favorites in the franchise. I think for our next podcast episode over on the Patreon, my dad and I are going to be ranking the entire franchise. I'm also trying to convince Scott that that's where he should make his debut because he's seen the whole franchise, so I kind of want him to join us for that ranking. Or should we do it on a live stream? Either way, that'll be coming up shortly, so subscribe if you haven't already. And yes, there is a Patreon where depending on which tier you join, you get a bonus video every single week, including hour-long podcast episodes with my dad. I also have a second channel where I primarily talk about physical media, but I also take you guys on spooky outings and things like that. It's just kind of a hobby channel. You can also find all my socials linked down below. You can find the GoFundMe link for my upcoming short horror film. And my birthday was literally yesterday on July 6th, so that could be your birthday present to me. I don't know. Anyway, more than anything, I just hope that you enjoyed this video and that I catch you in the next one. Bye!